Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, John McKechnie. That is Mario Puig. If anyone joined us last night for the NFFC live stream, much appreciated and welcome back. But if not, no worries. But that full stream, the full video up on our YouTube page. Please like and subscribe over there on our YouTube channel, the RotoWire YouTube channel. We also have a football specific one, which this one is being live streamed on as we speak. And additionally, before we get rolling, draft season totally, heating up. Heating up is an understatement at this point. It's in full swing at this point with fantasy draft season. So if you need some help with some rankings, projections, expert analysis, all that good stuff, you can go to rotowire.com, use that code YouTube15 to get 15% off any subscription. Big help for you as we get here into the teeth of draft season. Also have great stuff for you in season as well. I've even gotten some of my buddies to subscribe who are loath to spend money on stuff. They are like, no, this is going to help me. I'm tired of you beating us in our home league every single year. I'm going to get you this time. So that's how they did it. YouTube 15, that code. Today we're going to get into some job battles. We're also going to get into some best ball. It's been a little while since Mario and I did a deep dive market analysis into the best ball street. So we'll do a bit of that as well. But before any of that, we did have a bit of news break this morning as it pertains to one Rashee Rice. Now, we all know that he's been kind of looking at a suspension since things started moving over the course of this summer. And as of Thursday morning, Adam Schefter tweeted, and I quote, "Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is expected to have his disciplinary hearing with the NFL on Tuesday, September 30th in New York. This means that Rice is now likely to be able to play in the first 4 weeks of this season before any potential discipline is imposed for his role in a multi-car crash in Dallas during the 2024 offseason." So that alters things a bit because I think most fantasy managers, analysts, whomever, have kind of looked at this Rashee Rice situation, kind of accepted that a suspension is coming down. But I think a lot of people thought, hey, he'll be suspended the first 5 weeks of the season. He'll be suspended the first 6 weeks of the season. And then, it's on from there and he'll be back. And that gives him additional time to be 100% from that knee injury that ended his season last year, all that stuff. But now we kind of are looking at a pretty decent potential for a suspension to be dropped in the middle of the NFL season when it comes to Rashee Rice, Mario.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I guess for fantasy purposes, I especially can't see why it's an improvement for Rice's forecast this year. I guess you could say it makes it a little easier in redraft, I guess, if he's present for that first month, helping you get maybe to a 3-1, 4-0 record, whatever. But if you have to go through the same, if they put you on the same diet anyway, just in a different part of the season, and maybe a part of the season where the matchups are a little easier, like Chargers, Eagles, Ravens is probably the most difficult stretch of Rice's season, or for the Chiefs season, I should say. And if Rice were to play those 4 games and then miss 6 of this is all in a row: Jacksonville, Detroit, Las Vegas, Washington, Buffalo, Denver, I guess, there's some tough, especially Denver is a tough one in there. But I don't know, that missing that Jacksonville game, and I think Detroit, Vegas, those are maybe Washington too. Those are some games that I thought, even Buffalo, it's that even if that defense is tough, it might be such a urgent game script for the Chiefs that might have been another one of the best projected games for Rice this year. So I don't really see, and I say this as someone who is probably a little over invested in Rice, by the way, but I don't see how this is a good thing for him unless it somehow stalls his punishment to next year, which I think would be pretty odd and crooked, basically. So I don't know. I'm not feeling good about this exactly, even as someone who has a bunch of Rice shares.
Yeah, I think it is just kind of ultimately surprising. I do think that everyone just kind of thought that he would start the season suspended, and he just
Yeah,
you
that's what I assumed.
you draft with that in mind, and it's like, okay, like I'm going to get through the first couple of weeks and without him, and then he comes back early October, and it's business as usual the rest of the way. But I think that there's an additional impact, kind of like what you're getting at with him potentially being suspended in the middle of the season, and that's when, especially in redraft, like you have that roster crunch, like you have
Yeah.
say like week 6, week 7, you have a ton of week 8, ton of guys on bye weeks. You kind of were expecting Rashee Rice to be a part of your equation at that point, and that would no longer be the case. So that makes things all the more difficult when it comes to analyzing Rashee Rice for this current season. So I'd say like mid July, maybe I'm being a bit off on that, but before things became a little bit more concrete that there was something going to come down on Rashee Rice this season, he was getting drafted as high as like the end of the second round. Now he's getting drafted at the at kind of like the 4-5 turn. Do you think that this development as of Thursday morning with the date and everything, September 30th, do you think that changes it further, or do you think we just kind of are at the nadir of his price drop?
Well, for drafts that are done literally today or however long it takes for this get cleared up, as far as the whatever the actual repercussion is, like right now it's just gonna be chaos, I think, and then eventually we'll get some clarity on when he plays, when he will be suspended, whatever, and then I think people will more accurately fine tune their projections for Rice's, because if he's missing some of those games, I think it's just bad, but in the meantime, like your NFFC draft, he went in the 6th round, I want to say, yesterday. So that was Rashee Rice did. So if people in the high stakes leagues were trending toward that sort of 6th round valuation of Rice, I don't know if this news is enough to shake that up, because the 6th round is a lot different from like the 4th, for instance. But if you were previously willing to take Rice in the 4th round under the reasoning that like whatever, he'll miss the first month or even 6 weeks, but he'll be there for the fantasy playoffs for sure. Now it's like I don't know. I can't, if this news is not clarified, or if the news turns out bad, like if he does miss time in the fantasy playoffs, then that would kind of screw up that reasoning, at least worth a couple rounds, I'd say.
And then I've kind of gone back and forth on this thinking over the years when it comes to getting fixated on week 17 when you're drafting. But it is like a thing that the Chiefs end their fantasy season against the Broncos, who I think probably have the best defense and definitely like the best secondary in the NFL. So that's not like a game that he projects necessarily to like totally crush and like kind of put you over the edge necessarily either.
Could be. I think Rice, when he's on the field, is pretty clearly their wide receiver one, and with distance between himself and the next player, call it Xavier Worthy. But Xavier Worthy, I do think, is pretty maxed out. I think for him to change fundamentally as a receiver would be surprising, even though he's young. He'll get better at certain things. He'll get better at route running. He'll maybe put on a little muscle over the years, something that might pay off at some point or another. But I think when Rice is on the field, he's getting targeted like once every 6 snaps, something like that. He was getting snaps on the boundary last year, but he was playing in the slot mostly as a rookie. So I think by now he's shown they can move him around. They don't really need to specialize him in any one way. So if he can move around and thrive from both the slot and the boundary, I think even against a guy like Surtain, you can move him away. They don't generally let Surtain into the slot that much. And yeah, I also believe that Pat Mahomes is the kind of quarterback who inevitably will get back to that 5,000 yard, 50 touchdown kind of region after 2 down years. And I think Rice is a reason why that would happen.
Okay. All right. Good counters to all of
It's
that.
not meant to be a decisive counter by any means. This is a very weird situation that could break a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, and I just kind of like wanted to get at least like acknowledge that at least on paper that championship week is rather daunting when it
Yeah.
comes to this Chiefs team. And let's see, like the other ones of like the notable teams, like I know that the Eagles and the Bills also play that week, so like that's something to consider when you're getting like those premium guys from both of those teams. But sometimes it's kind of an iron sharpens iron, and those games end up being like huge. Kind of track meet type of games like we saw between like the Bills and the Rams last year, even though that wasn't week 17. But sometimes when the two of the best are going at it,
against the Ravens in week 1 last year, Rice had 9 targets on 38 snaps and caught 7 for 103. So, I think he's just kind of in that category where if Mahomes has a good game, so did Rice, and if Rice doesn't have a good game, it's kind of difficult for Mahomes to, at least relative to again that kind of like pre-2023 kind of version of Mahomes.
Right. And boy, in the AFC Championship game against the Ravens as well, I think that there was like one incomplete target thrown in the direction of either Rice or Kelsey, and there were like 20 targets in their direction in that game. I'm not bitter. I swear I'm not bitter. All right. Before we get on to some job battle stuff, Mario, we got a message from our friends over at Circa. Circa Million and Circa Survivor are back with a massive $21 million in guaranteed prizes. Circa Million, just go ahead and pick 5 games against the spread each week. 18 weeks of action with 126 ways to win. $1 million for the winner and $6 million guaranteed. Circa Survivor, that's when you have 1 pick a week, no point spread, lasts the longest to win it all. At least $15 million guaranteed. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere. $21 million guaranteed. Visit circasports.com for details. All right. So we are going to dig into some job battles. Mario's been just deep in it, keeping an eye on the important stuff that you need to know from all these training camps and the preseason. And he's been cranking out these articles for months, like all summer at this point. Let's get a little price check here when it comes to the Packers receiving core. And I think that you and I have kind of been in agreement that this is one of the tougher ones to figure out as far as receiving groups are concerned. And I think the Jaden Reed stuff of late makes it even trickier to figure out. But people seem to be really gravitating towards rookie Matthew Golden. He's someone that I have had very little exposure to post draft, just because I wasn't sure how to approach this receiving core generally. Like it's been a problem for me like the last couple of years, to be honest. I think that they're so multiple that they're so able to kind of roll in a deep group of guys where it's hard to find like that one featured guy. Felt like Jaden Reed would be the guy, but now with him a little bit dinged up and the Packers actually using a first round pick on Golden, maybe I'm a little bit wrong to have kind of faded him at cost at this point.
I think it's fair to be concerned for Golden, even if you think he's quite good, which I guess is my general position. It's helping me, though, get a little more sold on Golden this year, if only because Jaden Reed has this foot thing that he's working through, and he's kind of questionable for week 1. So with that, I think opens up a little bit as a possibility of Golden getting some slot looks. Not, in other words, normally, especially if Reed is playing the way he has the last 2 years, normally Matthew Golden would not get a whole lot of slot looks, which would mean putting more pressure on his boundary reps and leaving fewer possibilities for like upside, because if you're only able to play something like 45 snaps, then you need to be targeted at a very high per snap rate, or you need to have a really high yards per target or a high touchdown rate, something like that, because you can only generally, especially in an offense like this that isn't even that pass happy, you can only draw so many targets on a relatively meager snap count. But if Golden could push for something more like 55, 60 snaps in a week, which has not happened with any LaFleur receiver that I'm aware, maybe Devontae Adams must have been the only one really. Otherwise, LaFleur just rotates these guys so much, and this could be an issue for Golden even as a boundary receiver. It's like, in my opinion anyway, it is so absurd that LaFleur does not give Reed boundary snaps at he's not big, but he's 5'11", 187 or something. That's not that small. Much smaller receivers play outside all the time, and LaFleur literally won't let Reed do that. As much as I think that's totally ridiculous. I think it's so the degree of ridiculousness is so much that I can't rule out LaFleur just being generally unreasonable to the tune of something like, maybe Golden is clearly their best receiver. Maybe he's so good he even makes clear that he's a better slot receiver than Jaden Reed. I still would worry about Matt LaFleur taking Golden off the field for downs at a time, downs and distances at a time, for like Malik Heath or something like that. It's because he's already done it with Dontavian Wicks. And Wicks, especially last year, was just atrocious. They really hurt the offense by playing him last year. They lost games because of playing Dontavian Wicks so much last year. And what is even the theoretical use of that? I don't see one. Or whatever one there could be, I think is just laughably flimsy. And yet, in the Green Bay Family Night game, which is kind of like their spring football game in a way or something, as reported by Justice Mosqueda, who's definitely one of the best Packers beat writers, analysts, they did not give Jaden Reed a single snap on the boundary in that game or the Jets preseason game. People who got first string boundary reps in those two formats, Malik Heath and Mecole Hardman. So, this is a Mecole Hardman podcast, but I don't advocate playing him over Jaden Reed. And yet look at what Matt LaFleur is doing. It's crazy. So in my opinion, we can't trust LaFleur. And I think he's going to get fired after this year. So I think pretty soon anyway, because he's got to stop costing them games with his ridiculous just meddling,
Well, I think it's interesting how for the longest time he had like a built-in scapegoat with the defensive coordinator. Was it Joe Barry?
Joe Barry, yeah.
Yeah. So
but he kept hiring them too, and like Pettin before that, was that the name of that Bills guy? So yeah, it's like LaFleur would be negligent with the defense because he didn't want to pay attention to it. He wanted to just play around with the offense. But yeah, their defense looks like it might be okay.
Right. So now, like, when things don't go right in the win-loss column, like the blame, I think, gets a little bit more shifted towards the offense, and therefore LaFleur. Like, I think Jordan Love is more insulated within this, team than LaFleur is. Like, if they have another kind of flop of a season, maybe LaFleur does in his haircut get on the hot seat just a little bit. Quick price check on these guys right now. So just looking at the Packers generally, the Jacobs goes at the end of the second round. Golden up to start of like the 7th round, it looks like. Pick 72. Jaden Reed has dropped down towards the end of that round. And then you've got Tucker Kraft at 117. Romeo Dobbs are just inside the top 150. He's climbed up just a little bit. So who do you have interest in at cost when it comes to this particular grouping?
The one thing I don't know about Golden is how enthusiastic I can get about him in redraft, because I sort of don't want him in my top 3 receivers, even though that might be the cost more or less, even though he might pay off in that regard. But I'm so worried about the Packers wide receiver production being kind of, fluid from week to week that I just have trouble taking Golden over someone like at least Jacoby Myers, I think is generally around that range. And in full point PPR, it's like, yeah, Golden is tempting. I don't think Golden is just a speed guy, by the way. I think he's quite polished and natural as a receiver. So he should be a very good player in this NFL. But Myers definitely is already. I think Myers is the kind of guy who could catch something like 100 passes this year. And at least in full point PPR, something like NFFC, it's like, if I have to start this guy, I probably take Myers. But in best ball, if I can get Golden as something like a wide receiver 4 or like a co-wide receiver 3 with some other guy, and I don't have to guess which weeks either one of them is going to go off, then that's a lot easier for me to get interested in Golden. I guess any Packers receiver really, because Dobbs too, I think, is quite good. But if you're liable to play something like 30 snaps, and if you're never eligible to play 55 or 60, there's going to be an amount of fluctuation that's really difficult to anticipate correctly. And so if you pick a guy like Golden at a price like this, I think you kind of have to leave him in the lineup, and hopefully LaFleur doesn't screw around with things too much to keep Golden from reaching the potential that I think he clearly has.
So generally speaking, kind of truth serum time. How much of the do you have your exposure rates available when it comes to some of these Packers guys that this year,
It's
pass catchers in particular?
it's very little. I don't know. I probably have something like, I don't know, less than 10% of both Golden and Dobbs. That's not because I feel that comfortable about it. I'm also worried about the concussions in Dobbs's case, though, so that there's a little bit more concern there. Jacobs is the one that I feel best about. I am not excited to take Jacobs at his price this year. It was a lot easier to be excited about the price last year,
Sure.
but I do think he can be a break even kind of pick at the 2-3 turn. Like it's not where you're gonna pull a fast one on the league, and you're not stealing him by getting him there, but it's better than stepping on a landmine, and I don't think he's that. So not really chasing Jacobs the way I did last year, but definitely the one I'm most likely to pick out of that group, even though he's the most expensive. Kraft, I think, is a really good player, but it's kind of like a similar concern as the receiver issue. It's like I don't know how many times he's going to get more than 3 or 4 targets in a game, and he blocks a lot. In addition to I'm not as concerned about Musgrave, I guess, but I do worry about LaFleur just kind of getting cute with things, even at tight end.
I like Kraft a lot. The player is just kind of like
really
you
good
said,
player.
Like this offense kind of gives me some pause, and I just feel like where he goes, there are so many other tight ends going. Like I've actually kind of started getting into the Tyler Warren game just a little bit lately, and I've come around on Jake Ferguson once again. Not drafting Kincaid. We know that. I don't even know what I'm talking about
No
there.
way.
But
Never.
Dallas Goddard, and then if I'm doing a third tight end, I'm still comfortable grabbing Isaiah Likely there. Like he still might not miss any time, and he's getting like 2 rounds of discount at the moment.
Even at tight end too, I think Likely is pretty good pick right there.
Same. It's just that like now you don't have to pay the tight end 2 price to get him because he's like going in like the 160s as opposed to the 120. So a long way of saying that I like Kraft the player. I need to add more exposure, but I just feel like there's that cluster of tight ends that I've kind of gravitated to a little bit more as using the Green Bay offense as a tiebreaker kind of against him. But otherwise, Jacobs is my most drafted Packer at just under 15%. Marshawn Lloyd at 11%.
I have picked him. I'm not picking him anymore, especially with his injury setbacks. But I took a lot of Lloyd earlier in the offseason. And I do think Emmanuel Wilson is worth picking at the end of your drafts now, because I do think he's going to be the backup to Jacobs for at least the first month. And there's a pretty good chance he's the backup the entire year.
Yeah, I want the Lloyd thing to work out as a end of draft thing, but I'm probably
it's
not
worth the shot. Either one of those guys could end up with that role.
Sure. Let's talk about our next team here. Let's talk a little bit Seattle Seahawks receivers. So we know that JSN is going to be a huge part of it, kind of like the driving force of this passing game. They bring in Cooper Kupp this offseason. They bring in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but they also bring in, people forget, Romeo Dobbs' old teammate at Nevada, Torrey Horton, making a little bit of noise.
Yeah, so when the Seahawks went into the draft, it seemed as if they were pretty well set on going with Smith and Jigba, presumably at the flanker rep, Cooper Kupp, presumably in the slot, and Marcus Valdez-Scantling is like a sacrificial X receiver who just eats up a safety shell and runs in a straight line basically all the time. And I think there's clear utility to a player who does that, including Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but it's not a fantasy utility. It's only a real life football utility, and that being they keep the safety off the guys who really need to get the ball and who are well suited to carrying the offense from scrimmage. So you're kind of burning that rep, and in a way you're playing 10 on 11, but you're also removing one from the other side, so it's more like making the game 10 on 10 than 10 on 11. So I see that as a way to dictate things and attack weaknesses in a defense that you wouldn't otherwise have without that decoy speed. So I can see why MVS would have been sufficient for that design, even though he's not really, a viable target. What Torrey Horton might give them is something a little different. Granted, Horton is not quite as tall and fast as Valdez-Scantling, probably not even at this point. Like MVS, I mean, he might be more like a 4-5 guy now, but still seems pretty fast out there. His issue was always just that he doesn't really have much wide receiver skill, so he drops passes, can't really run routes. He can get jammed pretty easily. So we'll see if that becomes an issue. Like, you can't be a useful decoy if you just get jammed at the line, So he needs to actually find a way to get into his routes, start actually getting downfield. But Torrey Horton, I think, has fewer questions along those lines, even if he's maybe a little bit slower than Valdez-Scantling, and even though he's like an inch shorter, probably upwards of like 10, 15 pounds lighter. So maybe Torrey Horton kind of gets pulled on rundowns sometimes. I don't know if he's like a liability as a blocker compared to MVS, but for now, it seems like Torrey Horton is gaining on MVS. Like MVS generally opened the OTAs and training camp as the wide receiver 3 with the first team at that X spot, but Torrey Horton has been gaining first team reps at MVS's expense. So in other words, we're seeing an increasing number of first team reps for Seattle, where at the X spot is Horton, and the slot is Kupp, and then the flanker is Smith and Jigba. And of course, even in that role, even if he had that role, even if Torrey Horton takes the starting spot away from MVS, he'll still be a decoy a lot of the time. Like, he might primarily be a decoy, but he has just enough speed to get that done. And it can't hurt to be able to run a couple extra routes. It's like MVS, you really know he's just going in a straight line. Like, he's just a crossbow. Like, he's just kind of cumbersome to use, except for just like going one straight line downfield. And there are certain possibilities you forfeit by having him out there as opposed to a guy like Horton, who can, I think, run pretty much any kind of route. Like, even though he's skinny, I thought Horton kind of, he's never going to have like the advantage against, high contact collision type situations, but I think he's tough enough to hold up in it. And he makes, tough catches. He's not like afraid of contact exactly. So I think Horton can actually pitch in with more targets in general than MVS. And not to be grim, but if Cooper Kupp were to miss some time, which he has in recent years, I think Horton could turn into their wide receiver 2 and hold up pretty well. I think there's even like a slight chance that Horton is a better route runner this year than Kupp, just because I'm kind of worried about Kupp personally with his decline. It would need to be decline, obviously. Kupp is very good if he's not declined at this point, but I think Horton, for that reason, has some subtle upside to the point that it's probably worth picking him, in my opinion, in like 18 round best ball. And if you're talking late rounds of a redraft league, I think if you need some, lottery ticket receiver depth, I think you could do worse than Horton.
Right. So he's like firmly like getting drafted now. He goes inside the top 200, goes inside the top 190 actually. So I will tell you some other receivers that go in his general range. Your guy De'Ami Brown, Alec Pierce, who I have a crazy exposure rate to for one reason or another. I'll never figure it out. But I like the long touchdown, even if like if there's just like one long Alec Pierce touchdown this year, I'll like call that a success, even though that would still be ultimately a waste.
He's a good player. We're worried about the quarterbacks, but Alec Pierce is good.
He is good. Michael Wilson goes around there.
Pierce over Wilson. Well. We can say that at least, John.
Yes, no doubt. But that's kind of like the range, more or less, that that Horton finds himself in now, where it's De'Ami Brown, Alec Pierce, and Torrey Horton. So I think all three of those guys are receivers that I like or am good with drafting. I don't have any Horton yet. I wish that I had kind of stuck to my guns a little bit more, because he's been on my radar since like the COVID year. But
I thought he was going to go in the second or third, not the fifth.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that the last year being what it was kind of hurt his stock just enough here. But
I think Troy Franklin might have too, because they kind of look kind of skinny, and they're the 4-4 kind of thing. But I think Horton drops fewer passes. you can actually see he lined up against, he had like 14 catches against Colorado that were all like drag routes over and over. So it's like if a skinny guy is good at drag routes and he can kind of press vertically like Horton can, I really think like Horton has more ability to scale up than someone like De'Ami Brown. So I think Horton has more upside. I do think Brown probably has the higher floor. Like I just think he's going to be a regular starter for the Jags. Like pretty much no questions asked. But if Kupp misses time with an injury, I really do think Horton can become, I don't know, it's a fair, I think he could be one of the better fab pickups at the very least if Kupp misses time.
I like it. So consider me in on Torrey Horton. Like I don't always. There's a lot of the time I do my best to kind of like block out any sort of preseason hype on anybody. But I already liked Horton, and now it looks like he's getting, or he at least has the potential to get some serious opportunity here. So consider me in at the new ADP for him. Let's hit the Chargers receivers in light of the Keenan Allen signing. So you had some insights. We were talking before the show on where they might deploy him, or where they have been deploying him, at least thus far in camp, and then to give everyone an idea on the shape of the ADP for this team. Lad McConkey, the first Charger coming off the board, end of the second round. Omarion Hampton firmly in the middle of the third. Then you got Justin Herbert in the 11th round. Trey Harris now down to pick 130. Keenan Allen moving way up to inside the top 140. Quentin Johnston moving down a decent bit as well to pick 162.
Yeah, John, I think in your draft, your NFFC draft yesterday, Trey Harris fell to like the 16th round, which is totally crazy to me. But anyway, I incorrectly assumed that Keenan Allen would only really get looks in the slot for the Chargers based on, that's where he played before. It's where he played last year. It's where you generally need to play the slower that you get. And Keenan Allen is probably he's probably like the slowest NFL receiver right now. He might be running something in the 4.8 range, or at least like the mid 4.7s. And that's just not really going to play on the boundary. It just won't. It might work for some short yardage, like, some 3rd and 6 kind of thing. Or if you're, I guess, in a goal line drill, sure. What use do you have for another 10 yards? If you're lined up so close to the end zone, I can see Allen helping the Chargers from the boundary there, but with such deficient speed, I don't see how he's supposed to press vertically from the boundary. And corners might give him some cushion a couple times, let him land a couple jabs. But once you realize as a defense, as a corner, when you see this guy's not getting past me, like there's no way he's getting past me. So you'll stop defending the back part of the field eventually. You're just going to start jumping those routes. And once they start jumping those routes on the boundary, I still think Allen is going to have to get moved back into the slot. But according to Daniel Popper of The Athletic, who's definitely one of the most reliable beat writers out there for whatever team, he observed that I think it was already like a week ago or so, in some first team 3 wide sets, Keenan Allen was on the field at the same time as Lad McConkey. And in those cases, Lad McConkey stayed in the slot, which is generally where he ran from last year and was, of course, so productive. And they would have, from that formation, they'd have Keenan Allen in the flanker rep. So what's not clear is what percentage of the first team reps featured this package. It's possible that this was basically a sub package, even though Allen got some first team reps. Teams often split up first team reps between a variety of players. It doesn't necessarily mean anything conclusive, but the mere fact that they were lining up Allen at the flanker rep kind of it's at the very least surprising to me. I didn't expect him to play there. And if Allen does continue to play flanker reps, it would come at the expense of either Trey Harris or Quentin Johnston, because you got McConkey in the slot. That X rep is the only remaining one. You can't have both Harris and Johnston out there at that point.
So do you think there's a potential that they're just kind of like testing things out in the sense that, they just bring in Keenan Allen, this coaching staff hasn't had him but before, and just kind of wanted to see what it could look like, with Allen being on one of the boundary reps. I feel like Lad McConkey can do both. I think he can be inside or outside. So maybe they just wanted to see if they could get it. Like maybe they feel like personnel wise, it's optimal to have the hands of Keenan Allen and Lad McConkey on the field at the same time, but they're just trying to see from which alignment works the best. But difficult to see. But I was just sharing my screen a moment ago. I will share it again. I don't know why it's dim, but regardless, Keenan Allen went in the 9th round of this NFFC online championship draft last night, which was a bit rich, kind of extremely
Yeah,
rich. I don't
Kelsey
see
hated
him.
that pick.
Yeah, that's why she's chiming in. Whereas Trey Harris, like you said, went in the 16th round. So
Oh man, I thought I was embellishing that. I thought I
no,
was being using hyperbole there.
nope, you were absolutely correct. So Harris really fell, and Allen. I don't think if Team 5 didn't take Allen, I don't think that Allen would have been touched until like the 13th round.
I
That's
still
kind
want
of
Harris, especially if he's going in the 16th round now.
yeah.
That's an easy one for me. I do think, or I should say, as much as I'm skeptical that Keenan Allen can keep taking these boundary reps, there's at least a situational reason. Again, like the goal line, 3rd and 7 kind of stuff, because it does suck when Quentin Johnson just lets the ball clang off his hands in those situations, and the Chargers, at the very least, they seem to be kind of just done with that. Like they're like, that's enough. We're going to avoid this. We're going to make a priority to avoid this. So Keenan Allen does give them that. He's not going to drop that pass. He probably can't push more than like 6 yards, but he won't drop the ball. So there's that, and that if that gives him a better 3rd down conversion rate, then it's certainly worth something. And even still, I think more likely this will trend toward, unless the Chargers are willing to move McConkey to the flanker rep, this will trend toward Allen ending up just kind of being the next man up after McConkey in the slot, and a guy who plays for 3rd downs on the boundary. And it seems to me that it's more so Johnston's problem than Harris's problem. But I can't tell, too, if the case of Harris is people are freaking out because they're like, no one knows who's better between Trey Harris and Keandre Lambert-Smith, because like Keandre Lambert-Smith's doing generally well too. So
Right.
I think that would be a mistake. I think Trey Harris pretty clearly outclasses Lambert-Smith, and I think Lambert-Smith is more like another kind of just swing backup type who he's got the build of a slot receiver, but he more so is a downfield kind of target, so he's kind of like a little bit of a tweener in that sense. Harris is the guy who I think, if only for a shortage of other boundary options, especially if they're kind of sick of Johnston, like I think Harris is going to get some room, some time to acclimate. And if it's worth the time, I think, for the Chargers to give him that, because if Harris does click, then they become pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, the upside case for Harris is pretty wild. I mean, like, what he was able to do at Ole Miss last year, and before then at Louisiana Tech and Ole Miss. Like the guy is remarkably productive on a per game, per target basis. Dealt with some injury last year and everything. I mean, he was on his way to being like one of the most productive receivers in college football last year. I mean, just crazy stuff. So for whatever reason, I have been light on drafting him. But if there's going to continue to be this discount, like what we're seeing right now, where he's going at pick 130, I'm going to have to think a little bit more seriously about adding more Harris to the old portfolio. Before we move on to some other kind of just general best ball observations here, some market movement that we've seen since we last really got to dive deep into that, we've got a message from our friends over at Renegade Fantasy. Fantasy football players, aren't you tired of your top players getting injured or not performing well? I know I am. Lucky for you, RotoWire teamed up with Renegade Fantasy, the only fantasy football app where you can sub in a player in real time. This means no more stress, no more points lost to injuries, or even poor performance. With the Renegade Fantasy app, you can step down from the luxury box and become a real-time coach. Join the RotoWire League on Renegade Fantasy app today. Go to rotowire.renegadefantasy.com to claim your free entry into the RotoWire League today. So go ahead. Go to that link, rotowire.renegadefantasy.com. And then we also got a message from our pals over at Fantrax. Is there something you wish your fantasy league had, or features that are missing from your current leagues, like bonus scoring, custom schedules, or playoffs, deeper team settings? Well, look no further, because we have you covered with our friends over at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Fantrax even offers college fantasy football leagues. Create or join a fantasy football commissioner app or league today. Invite your friends and dominate your draft this season. Fantrax is the top dynasty football platform in the industry. I tend to agree with that sentiment. The RotoWire Staff College Fantasy Football League is currently going on over on Fantrax, enjoying that. And of course, like I've mentioned on other episodes, did like a 52 teamer earlier this summer. I did a 60 rounder earlier this summer. Just sickening stuff that Fantrax lets you do in a good way.
Yes.
Truly for the passionate fan. Fantrax is running a special promotion that you don't want to miss. Sign up for free at fantrax.com/rotowire today to enter for your chance to win a signed Jamar Chase jersey. Simply create a new league or bring over your existing leagues for more chances to win. Simply go to fantrax.com/rotowire and sign up today. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. All right, Mario, as we head to this next portion of the show, we're going to be talking about some market movement in the best ball world. So we've been mostly doing like the second half of these shows. A lot of the time we'll like kind of do the deep dives into specific teams, specific offenses, things like that. But we're going to do a more macro view here when it comes to the best ball scene generally. And I feel like since the last time that we really discussed this stuff, Mario, we've seen some changes. We're going to keep this to like the top 50 or so type of guys. But, when there's movement in that particular range, it's pretty significant in the sense that like even moving up 2-3 spots can actually like mean quite a lot. And it has pretty significant ripple effects. So for instance, Devin Achane, someone that was probably going mid to late second round for the earlier part of best ball draft season, now pretty firmly going at the end of the first round, and oftentimes ahead of guys like Ashton Genty. So he's moving up, and we also see guys like Puka Nacua sliding down. So let's just circle Achane right now and discuss the case for him at this new acquisition rate where you got to spend a late first, early second to get him.
It's tough for me to see what changed here. I guess some people might be getting lower on Genty. I don't know if it's because of the preseason game that did not matter at all. I don't know if it's because Tyreek Hill kind of keeps complaining about the Dolphins, and maybe some people are saying, they're going to trade him, or like he's just going to be crap, and they lower his target rate and give it to Achane, and maybe that raises Achane in their rankings. Can't really think of what else it would be, but I struggle to see what would have changed if especially if the thing about Tyreek Hill were the issue. Like if they were saying, well, actually Achane's going to get like 10, 15 more catches than I projected because Tyreek's busted or whatever. Like, I don't know if that's a safe thing to assume, because this is still a really tiny running back. Like we're Achane fans, but this guy should not be getting 20 carries in a game. It's just a bad idea. Or if it's that, if he's getting 20 carries in a game, it better be the Super Bowl, and he better be getting like this next 4 months off. So it's just a little hasty to assume a 188, 190-ish pound running back can simply just take on X, take on whatever it is. It was some number, just add it to the guy's projection, number goes up. That kind of analysis with Achane, I think, can get you in trouble, because we've already seen him break down multiple times, and his usage last year just kind of looks maxed out already to me. He's like 200 carries, 78 catches. If that kind of box score is what had you projecting, had you ranking Achane in the top 10 or whatever, by all means, I think it's fair to kind of assume he'll more or less do the same thing this year. But assuming he'll do more, I think is basically to assume he'll be 10 pounds heavier than he is without losing any of the speed.
Which not the case as far as we know. I think on the Tyreek Hill detail, like Do you think that there is the possibility that generally like the shape of this offense looks a little bit different if Tyreek Hill is getting phased out just a little bit? Like, are they going to run the ball a little bit more with Achan? Like, is
I
that
don't know, man. They're I don't think they know either. I think Mike McDaniel is kind of I think his head spinning at this point, and I'm not sure he has the kind of acumen and processes in general to deal with what's headed his way. It was working great for McDaniel when he was first in Miami, and these tricks that he had and clearly had thought about so much were kind of taking teams by surprise, and Tyreek, Waddle were raking like crazy. That plus Achane speed added in, it's like you got a legitimate circus going. But if that player Tyreek Hill is not there that whole time, and if the defense is far worse than it's been in the last 3 years, which it is, and if Teron Armstead retiring, I don't know. I think the Dolphins are very much on watch to be the worst team in the NFL this year, and I can see, I guess, a whole lot of things happening if Tyreek Hill were all of a sudden subtracted. I just don't know what. I don't know if any of it would be particularly good. Like I think Waddle, to be serious, Waddle would be a huge fantasy winner, and I think a bigger winner than Achan would be. But I guess I don't know. At the very least, I haven't seen any corresponding increase in enthusiasm for Waddle yet. So I think that might be part of the Achan hype too. Is it's like people are sort of just putting more carries and catches in his projection, and there might be a limit to what he can withstand. Maybe if McDaniel were taking my advice, though, what he would do is get a little bit more of a power element going in his run game. Like, I don't know if it's Jalen Wright, he might not be sufficient for that, or if it's Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon?
Yeah, I think Gordon could clearly help them out in that regard. But if Mike McDaniel's trying to do this thing where he's doing this kind of like 4 wide with 2 tight ends, and Julian Hill is one of them, and just hoping Tua Tagovailoa just makes something good happen, and especially if Tyreek Hill is not there, and the Tyreek Hill we more or less know him as, I don't know what they expect good to happen with that. Like that's a team that's at once run dependent, I think, but not. I don't know if McDaniel really has the focus and like the power background, like the power familiarity to create the level of balance that he'd need for the kind of volume he'd be taking on. So I just see it all ending badly. As much as I was saying that I think that LaFleur is going to get fired this year, that's only if LaFleur keeps doing these stupid things. If he stops doing the stupid things, he's more so golden. B, I still more so think. I mean, I'm more sure yet that Mike McDaniel will get fired. Like a lot more sure yet.
Yeah, I think McDaniel's an interesting call for like first coach fired.
Him, Steichen, depending on who backstabs the other first in Indianapolis, it's like either Ballard or Steichen's going to get fired, maybe both, but one of them's going to go early in the year. So it's like guys like Steichen, McDonald. LaFleur won't be the first. I think he's more like after playoffs kind of firing.
And the Packers will be like, we don't fire people during the season or something like the Bears were doing last year.
Bears.
How cool was that?
That was awesome. Just like sticking the Eberflus thing. Well, you never thought that they could do better than Urban Meyer, but Eberflus was better because it was less bleak. Eberflus was just hilarious. Like the Urban Meyer stuff, it's like you're seeing an actual dark side of humanity or something.
Yeah.
But Eberflus was just had a full blown circus going. It was awesome.
And like the off season going into last year, where it's like, well, he has hair gel now and a beard, so
he's got a beard.
Better, so this could be good. It wasn't. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about Puka Nacua. Now, he was someone that was going kind of where Christian McCaffrey. I've got my screen share on. I'm circling wildly the 7th and 8th slots where Christian McCaffrey and Malik Neighbors now occupy. Puka Nacua used to live there. Now, I think the market is collectively concerned and measurably concerned as it is reflected in Nacua sliding a bit, and I think also Devontae Adams got the dreaded red down arrow next to his name. He's someone that I'm pretty leveraged on. I was I think I have probably close to 20% Devontae Adams. So I'm a little bit worried. And I know that people say, like, well, they have one of the best backup quarterback situations. Like, Devontae Adams hates Jimmy Garoppolo. That's not good for me. It's not good for my Devontae Adams interests.
Oh, I can't remember this lore. Did was there like a clip of when they were in Las Vegas where Adams
Yeah.
called him a what did he call
Yeah.
him?
He did not love playing with Jimmy G from the looks of it. And
Okay.
he didn't
Well,
love playing in Vegas generally. It didn't look
yeah,
like,
that could be
really.
part of it too. I mean, if if they were both Jimmy Garoppolo and Adams playing for McVay, maybe they would have gotten along a little bit better because the offense would have been a little easier to play in or something like that. I don't know, but you're right. It's a drop off and a substantial one from Stafford to Garoppolo. I just think, or at least I'm rationalizing. I'm telling myself, since I also have a lot of Devontae Adams, I'm deluding myself into saying, well, it might only be substantially worse for real life purposes. For fantasy, though, for that fake game that we play called fantasy football, like the numbers I think more or less might pile up. They're just probably not going to pile up in the same high leverage, high significance situations. Like they might need to get the production a little bit more in garbage time than, with like a game on the line in a divisional contest. So particularly with I think McVay is just kind of going to like throw a certain number of passes that he will. And I think Nakua and Adams are getting pretty much all of it. So that number, that pass attempt number would have to drop quite a bit for me to get truly worried about either one, honestly. Like I don't see any reason to be more concerned with like the Rams quarterbacks than maybe the Giants in the case of Malik Neighbors, and Neighbors is going ahead of Nakua at this point. And don't get me wrong, I'm agnostic either way. I don't have a strong opinion on it, but it seems to me like the ADP developing kind of does, and I'm not sure that it's a very well substantiated belief.
Yeah, and I guess now that I think on it, McVay, I mean, he with like 2 days to work with, like, got Baker Mayfield looking pretty good. That kind of changed the trajectory of his
Yeah,
entire career. So,
they should have
um,
resigned him, but yeah, they clearly didn't think he was very good. But it was like, yeah, he looked pretty good in that very short notice after looking so bad in Carolina, literally worse than Sam Darnold in
yeah,
Carolina before that. So yeah, I maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I kind of do have faith in like the McVay system, Adams, Nakua at the rate they draw targets, and just pretty much any quarterback who isn't like bottom any quarterback who's top 50ish I think might be enough for those guys. In that case, I'm actually a little bit more worried yet about the offensive line. The left, like Alaric Jackson, I think is probably gonna miss a bunch of time or something like that.
ooh,
Something to keep an eye on because he had that blood clots thing. I can't remember if there's like a follow-up on that, but he had gotten good results at left tackle for them that they hadn't had in years. He was such a big upgrade over Noteboom or whatever they had before that. So if you have a scenario where Stafford's out and the Rams pass blocking is kind of suffering a little bit, maybe then it's a little bit more of a hazard. But I just, in the meantime, Nakua and Adams, they've just drawn targets at such an absurd pace. I think McVay's going to keep targets heading their way.
yeah. So I was kind of following the crowd a bit and being concerned about the Stafford thing, but I think you inject some just realistic, like, Jimmy Garoppolo is an actual NFL quarterback, and this is a quarterback friendly system. So
Oh,
with the
sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt. I guess I guess Alaric Jackson has been taking some amount of activity in training camp. So yeah, hopefully if he's all clear, then I guess I'm back into the delusional optimism again.
Okay. All right. So there is a case for the delusional optimism that you made very well there. Let's get on over to another faller. So Brees Hall, now going routinely in the fourth round. He was kind of like a early third, I think, at the start of draft season. Then he's kind of like consistently or persistently over time slipping. I feel like in the ADP, now available at pick 38. Your thoughts there? Are people just kind of like deluding themselves into Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, or are people getting worried that Justin Fields eats off of Breece Hall's plate? Are people worried that Breece Hall isn't going to be super featured? Like they're going to go more committee approach.
I don't know. I think it's pretty safe to say there's a pretty um, big contingent of Braylon Allen fan fiction writers and readers, so that could be part of it. I mean, we do know plenty of influential analysts have been pushing that one, and it's eventually going to show up in the people, the ADP, the portfolios of the people who subscribe to it. I think if Braylon Allen is a threat to Breece Hall, then everything is a threat to Breece Hall. And I don't think many things at all are actually a threat to a running back like Breece Hall. So it does seem like Braylon Allen is kind of starting out the season ahead of Isaiah Davis, which happened last year. And over the course of last year, Braylon Allen very predictably burned out, and then they started giving Davis more shots, and he very predictably was more effective than Allen. But I do see how if Aaron Glenn is kind of fixating on the like speed, power designation of a multifaceted run game, then Braylon Allen, of course, has only ostensibly power, and he's kind of cartoonishly, strong for a running back. So I can see why, if you're just deferring to aesthetic, you'd sort of just start out with Allen first. You'd say, like, well, he's the guy who does the power stuff, of course, and Isaiah Davis is he's like merely 218 or something, so he's a shrimp, of course. But I think what they will find is that if they need a power specialist, Davis is at least as good as Allen, if not better. I guess if you only need like 3 or 4 yards, Braylon Allen can't hurt, but he runs a 4.8, and his legend is basically all based on like training camp photos of, and people just being like, wow, look how muscular this running back is. He's only 20 years old.
Yeah, the age.
Yeah, do you think he's going to get faster at 23? Like, how specifically do you see that mattering? No need to tell me. It doesn't matter. Ask Jamal Williams if it mattered. He was 17 his first year at BYU. So anyway, I think the Jets want to run the ball a lot this year, and I do believe Aaron Glenn is the kind of coach who he's a Parcells disciple. Parcells, if he were in the NFL today, would say a lot of things that beat writers and fantasy people would not know how to parse. They would go overreacting to, calling Terry Glenn, rest in peace, a woman, for missing practice with an injury. People were like, oh, he hates Terry Glenn. It's like, no, Terry Glenn was one of his favorite players. He just talks like that, and Aaron Glenn is one of his disciples. So there's a tough guy thing. There's a you got to prove it kind of mentality thing going on there. But I think that's a challenge to Breece Hall and the running backs at large on the Jets. It's not something to say like, and you've seen people try to spin this like, it sounds like Aaron Glenn hates Breece Hall and loves Braylon Allen. Wow. Like, okay, well, if Aaron Glenn is that confused, he will quickly get over it soon. Like it's not serious to suggest that Braylon Allen is particularly close to Breece Hall's level, in my opinion. I think Breece Hall is clearly one of the best picks on the board.
And I mean, I think that this is an offense that is going to need to run the ball a ton. And I know that Justin Fields is going to take up, a decent chunk of that, but
there will be multiple runners. I will say that, like, Allen could have some like off the bench use, but I think if he's sufficient in that, it would largely just be because Breece Hall had already done so much lifting that they didn't need much more.
So this is an interesting dynamic when it comes to Breece Hall, because like it's sort of like he's sort of like the only guy other than James Cook routinely going in this range among running backs. So, whereas like usually
Hampton maybe is Hampton in that same.
Hampton goes earlier now. That's okay. Been kind of like a flip flopping, essentially. So, yeah, I think I need to grab a little bit more Breece Hall, and then
they sure aren't throwing it. Like, I like Justin Fields, especially I should say for best ball, but they are not going to throw the ball very much this year.
No, I think bottom 3, but maybe just straight up bottom.
I think they're going for the lowest one. I think they want to run for the most plays and kind of like throw for as little as possible and just win 17-14 every single week.
Yeah, and they should have the defense to hold up at least one part of that equation. Let's see here. Lastly, I do want to get your thoughts on Terry McLaurin. I feel like that's been a one where it's a worthwhile buy the dip and see how far it can go. I feel like I'm a little bit surprised that the ADP is showing 41.5. I feel like I've seen him be available a decent bit later. Now, there are some really, really good options there that are active in camp and everything. Like you're talking about George Pickens or DJ Moore, Jameson Williams, and Tet McMillan too. But I think ultimately this gets settled with McLaurin. And I think he plays week one and he already knows the offense and everything like that. I think this ends up getting smoothed over. And he ends up playing at a requisite level to like where he was going earlier in draft season before all the drama, like, pick 28 or so, I think is, kind of how he ends up panning out. So what do you think on McLaurin? Am I being, overly optimistic on how this goes with him?
I don't know. I mean, I definitely wouldn't fade the player. I definitely wouldn't fade his fit on that team at the price if he's on the field. I do worry a little bit though, like the longer this is going on, do we have to worry about it being kind of a Brandon Ayuk thing where maybe Ayuk was just going to kind of have a bad season either way, but he certainly seemed a little off rhythm when he came back. And McLaurin is at the very least at risk of missing most of training camp, if not all of it, pretty soon. So those things concern me. Yet on the other hand, I have no idea what Washington thinks they're doing, not just paying him. Like, why don't you just pay him? What are you
They
going
have
to
the
do this
cap.
year
They
if you
have the
don't pay
cap.
him? Like,
Right.
there's just no answer to that question. That only bad answers anyway. So I don't know why they're pinching pennies about this, and I don't understand why it's an acceptable business standard now. For it, there's just these GMs have created this status quo where if you're a player's agent, you should just consider the offers they give you fake until right before week one starts. You have no reason to believe they're negotiating in good faith until that point. So if these cases like if McLaurin relents and comes back to play without getting a new contract, that would surprise me. I think Washington needs to pay him. It's ridiculous that they haven't. And it's not even like an issue of paying. It's not like a raise issue. It's like they need to extend him beyond this year. His contract ends after this year. And he's like, I'm not going to play maybe my best season of my career at the point where I'm depreciating the fastest just for your books, just so your finances are nice and easy and clean. It's like, come on, just find the money. Just make it work. Make it work or make a trade. Do something. You cannot go into the year with Deebo Samuel as your wide receiver one. It's just ridiculous. You're wasting what was supposed to be a Super Bowl contending season over pennies that will amount to nothing in your subsequent cap expenditures. It's just ridiculous.
It is. So that I'm surprised that it has gotten like it, and he's been such like a good soldier for them too. Like he's gone through like
they owe him money retroactively anyway. Just pay him.
My God, I mean they've had him playing with clowns at quarterback. He's worn all three Washington uniforms over the course of his career. So pay the man his money. I think, and
he's like a legendary like ghost prophet, or it's like I don't know if anyone's read like Redwall. He's like a Martin the Warrior kind of thing at this point for Washington. It's like he's just always been here. He guides us, and you're gonna try to cut costs on that guy. Like, just he's been here through eons, ages.
100%. And like you have Jaden Daniels on the rookie contract. Like this is when you can pay other guys.
So what they should have done is, I guess, if Washington was just so closed off to the idea of paying McLaurin, they at the very least should have drafted somebody or whatever, traded for DK Metcalf, whatever it is that they needed to do. But just playing hardball with the only guy who can make your offense go the way you need it to, it's just crazy.
It's nuts. That doesn't make a lick of sense. Although maybe it's just Luke McCaffrey season, and we
like I would assume this was a Dan Snyder bit to play, not the new, right? The new guys, whoever they are.
Yeah, strange. But regardless, at least from where I'm sitting, if McLaurin, if I'm comfortable with the risk, and I'm in the fourth round and I need a receiver, I'm okay with mixing McLaurin in, even with like the sort of crazy off season. But
the James Cook thing, that got cleared up out of nowhere. So hopefully this does the same. But like they really got to get to it. Like, I don't actually think it's a great idea to just have him play in week one after practicing 3 days for the prior 2 months.
Yeah, that would not be ideal for either side. So figure it out. But that's going to do it for us here on this edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors over at Circa, over at Renegade Fantasy, and over at Fantrax. Again, if you are not yet signed up at RotoWire, go to rotowire.com. Use that code YouTube15. You get 15% off any subscription, particularly useful this time of year. Draft season is peaking as we speak, so you're going to want to get access to our rankings, analysis tools, and more. And download our app. Just search RotoWire in your app store, and you'll find it, and it's going to help you win your leagues this year. For Mario Puig, I'm John McKechnie. Thanks for listening.